Hey guys, Rugby Itch here. With Super Rugby Pacific right around the corner, I thought why not give you guys my prediction for the upcoming 2025 season. Before we get into this, make sure guys to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and let me know in the comment section below your prediction for the upcoming season. So in terms of 11th, that I expect to kind of finish here, I am going to go with Moda Pacifica to finish in 11th place. It's just one of those where, do I see them going any bit above? I mean, look, they've added Artis Villa, which is definitely the biggest transfer in Super League history by a mile, and he's going to add so much towards this side in terms of kind of just leadership and just kind of just I think elevating this side. But do I think that's going to matter as much in terms of like the fixture list they have, in terms of the opponents they have, and in terms of just like kind of the depth of the squad really? Because they have lost some key players as well in there, but. Oh, gosh, it's tough on Mono Pacifica, man, because they are a good side, but can they beat a lot of these NZ sides and get wins over the Australians? I just don't know. Because, again, they got 4 wins last year, which was actually pretty good. And I kind of expect them to get near enough the same, I'd say, going into this season. But do I think they'll make it enough to kind of reach the playoffs? I just don't think so. So, look, I'm going to say 11 for now. I mean, I am going to say the one to watch player is, of course, Artis Villa for that side because he is he's just a marquee player. And yeah, he'll add a lot towards kind of, I guess, just watching how Mono Pacifica do. So, yeah, I will say 11th place for this Mono Pacifica side. In terms of 10th, look, this is tough because I think it's really between two sides that I was kind of going back and forth here, but I've gone with the Highlanders in terms of 10th place. And yeah, the Highlanders, look, every year they just keep losing key players. Like they lose a lot of experience each year. And honestly, I just think that hinders them because at the end of the day, you need experience to kind of help you kind of power through some wins. But at the same time, they've added some key players in there. I mean, yeah, they've added, Caleb Tangatal in there. They have, Jacob Atavuki Nemkins, who's always been pretty good for them. Yeah, look, they got a good side of the Highlanders, and they can definitely kind of exploit teams. But do I think they can do it, consistently? That's the question. I just don't think they'll be consistent enough to kind of make it kind of towards the playoffs this year. So that's the reason why I've put them in 10th place. I don't know. I think they've made some good signings, but do I expect them to kind of make that next push? I just don't. I just don't expect it. But it will be interesting to see how kind of Jamie Joseph does because I think if I'm not mistaken, he'll have a lot more kind of influence in terms of the coaching decisions, I guess, going forward now. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that kind of goes along. But yeah, no, with the ninth place, then I have then decided to go with the Western Force as my ninth place team. Again, as the first Australian side here, they've added some good, kind of signings that they've added like Dylan Peach in there, Brendan Pegamosa, another good signing again coming from France. Yeah, but they got a good team actually. When you look at it on paper, it's just more like, do I think they can break through teams? Because from an attacking point of view, I think the Western Force are actually a pretty good side actually from an attacking sense. Like they're able to get some tries in there, but they're able to have a few games in there where they can get up to like 40 points. Like they've shown that within the previous season. But from a defensive point of view, I think there is still a bit of a liability. Like again, they've added some players in there which can help. I mean, Tizano is always going to be a key player for them and kind of keeping hold of him because I think he's an outstanding player. So yeah, he's definitely kind of a key kind of player to look out for them in terms of that loose forward trio. But yeah, I mean their back line is really good with the likes of Nick White, Ben Donaldson. They got who else? They got Dylan Peach now in the 11. They've brought in the likes of I think Matt Gurley as well. They got a decent side. Even like Bailey Kunzel. Oh, what's his name? Darcy Swain from the Brumbies as well. Jeremy Williams. Like it's a good side. They have a good side on paper. I just don't know if they'll just can they get the wins. I just don't think so. I think it's going to be a very mixed bag season for them. So that's the reason why I put them in ninth. But honestly, that they're a side which I could be completely wrong on because they have impressed me at times. I just don't know if they'll be able to kind of make the next step and kind of push for that number 6 or 5th spot, really. Because you have to remember, like the playoffs is a slightly different kind of pathway this year because there's only 6 spots available for this year. So it's interesting to see kind of who will be able to kind of make the way in or not. But look, for the 8th place team here, this is where I've decided to go with the Fijian Drua. So this may surprise a few people because, again, the Fijian Drua have actually been pretty impressive, I'd say, for the last 2 seasons. And the reason for that is because they've just been so good at home. They've really relied on their home form. But really, I think the thing for me putting them in 8th is that I'm looking at their fixtures, and I think the fixtures actually may be against them this year. I think a lot of their fixtures early on, I don't think go into their favor. And I think just it's one of those where I think the Fijian Drua have kind of a hot streak kind of early on to kind of set themselves apart and kind of just get themselves in a good position early on to kind of just capitalize if they make any defeats in the middle of the season. And I just think I may go against them good of what I see in terms of their fixtures early on. Again, they have some good players in there. I mean, Masi's just a key player for them. They got Ratimanda in there still. They got Waka in there. They got Kaveri. I mean, they have a very good side in there. And even Killer Muntz, like he's actually he'll be finally back for this year. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes along. Because again, he'll have to fight in that 10 spot. But still, they've got a good team. They got a really good team, guys. And you can never really count out the Fijian Drua when they play at home. It's just their away form, which always hinders them. So I'm kind of banking on them not doing as well as they do at home. I think they could do better, maybe away. We'll have to wait and see. But I think for now, I'm going to put them in the 8th spots. But you never know. It could change as the season goes on. But I'm putting them as 8th. Now, in terms of 7th, this is probably the key one really that I'm going to talk about because this is like the team that just misses out in the playoffs. And I know this may be harsh that I'm doing this, but I'm going to put the Waratahs in 7th. I just think they're a team where they've added so much depth toward their side. I mean, like they've made the best signings, I think, going into this season. I kind of you can watch my video that I did. I already talked about this, and yeah, they have made up some outstanding signings. They've added Kellaway, they've added Joseph Swahili, they got Rob Lutea. They got some good signings there. They even got they already had Max Jorgensen. They got Jake Gordon in there. It's a good side. Dave Parecki's kind of back in. They got Angus Bell, Tino Tupo, Isaac Kalea. Like they've really added towards that front. Like they've added towards the 4-pack and the backs. Like they've done a good balance in that way. It's just, I just think they're a side which, when you look at the fixtures, they actually have a very nice fixture run actually early on if you look at it. So I actually think that's the reason why I think they'll be in a good position from the start. But I think they'll have a similar kind of season to what we saw from the Reds last year, where they had a good start, but they kind of dipped down a bit as the season goes on. So that's what I kind of expect from the Waratahs, and I think they just might miss out because of it. So that's the reason why I'm putting them in 7th. I just think the fixtures may go against them in that time. And look, it's going to be interesting how they go along because they have a very good side. And yeah, they've got McKellar in there now as the head coach. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how he gets along in terms of just kind of building on that defense, because that was kind of a main part of what he tried to do with the Brumbies. And it's still there, obviously, with the Brumbies, but he really installed kind of a defensive kind of game with the Brumbies, and that's kind of how they got a lot of their wins done. So I'm expecting him to kind of have an influence on the Waratahs, and kind of that's how I expect them to do this year as well. Again, from an attacking point of view, I don't think they need any help on that front because I just think they have so much firepower that they can definitely use. It just comes down towards their defense. So I'm intrigued to see if they can kind of get over the line. Look, if they finish in the playoffs, I won't be surprised, but I just think the 6 other teams ahead of them are just slightly better. So that's the reason why I'm putting the Waratahs in 7th. But hey, if the Waratahs get into the playoffs, I won't be mad about it. Going into the 6th place then, this is where I decided to go with the Reds, the Queensland Reds. And look, they're a side where, again, they're playing their bye, and they actually have won both their games actually in the preseason because they beat Ulster, I believe, as well as Bristol Bears, and yeah, they've done pretty well actually in both those games, getting some high-scoring games in both of them. Do I think they can kind of go on a run, I guess, in the opening fixtures they have? I mean, I think they can. I think they have some good – they have a mixed bag, I think, in terms of fixtures when you look at it early on. And again, it's kind of the same, really, when you kind of look going into later this season. So the Reds are in a place where I think they have to really capitalize on their home form. They normally do pretty well, actually, at home. That's kind of what they're known for. It's more their away form, which kind of, I guess, hinders them. And just they're kind of similar towards the Fijian Drua in all aspects. So, yeah, look, they got some strong players in there. They brought back, Flipa Dongadu as well as Lachlan Saikaloto from the Rebels, ex-Reds players there. So those will be key additions. Also, Josh Canham there, Matt Gibbon. I mean, Lockie Anderson as well. So I think he's a very underrated sign in that one. I think he'll do pretty well for them. So look, I think they got a good side, the Reds. I think they're just a destructive team. I think they have like everything for them. And again, I'm hoping that Hunter Pasami is available now because he was injured, unfortunately, for the Autumn International. So we didn't get to see much of him then. So I'm hoping he's kind of fully fit now. Kind of fighting for his place because, again, with the Lions tour coming around, he's a player which I've already mentioned beforehand. I think he'll have a massive impact in terms of how that central combination looks going into the Lions tour because, again, we saw Lennon Katau and Joseph Swahili in terms of that 12-13. Looks really nice, but I'm telling you, Hunter Pasami is a player which, if he's on form, I honestly would consider putting him in 12 and then shifting Lennon Katau to 13 and then putting Joseph Swahili maybe as a winger or fullback, depending on where he plays for the Waratahs. Because I think he may play as a winger. I'm thinking that's what I've seen so far in terms of kind of preseason videos. But I could be wrong on that front, but I think he may be playing as a 14. So for my estimation, I I think the Reds, I mean, they just have too good of a strong squad there. So that's the reason why I think they're going to just pip it in sixth place there. But again, with the fifth place team here, this is where I've decided to go with the Crusaders. Crusaders are a team which I think they're the most unpredictable team that you look at for this year. Again, they finished, I think, well, they've just finished outside the playoffs. I think they finished in ninth place, if I'm not mistaken, for last season. So yeah, they didn't have a good year. I mean, they had what, 4 wins, 10 losses. Yeah, I mean, it's unheard of, really, if you're a Crusaders fan, really, to have that many losses in a year. Do I expect them to have that kind of season this year? No. I think the Crusaders will be much better going into this year. Again, they are a bit short-handed early on, with the likes of Clay Taylor, unfortunately, being a bit injured for the opening, he'll be injured for the opening 2 games, and they have a bye weekend, so he'll come back into the 4th. But besides that, I mean, they have their full squad available towards them. They have like Scott Barrett. They got Will Jordan back, which is a big one. I think they'll eventually have Brennan Enor available, which is a hope there. They got James O'Connor in the number 10 spot, which is key because they have needed a 10, since Rich Mullen leaving and Fergus Burke obviously leaving now as well. They do need that 10 spots, and I think he'll add a lot of experience actually. And I've always been impressed by James O'Connor, what he does, what he's able to do with the Reds. I think he'll be able to kind of bring that over towards the Crusaders. So I'm looking forward to see how he'll be able to kind of manage that 10 spots. But yeah, look, the Crusaders, they have a good side. You can never really underestimate them. And look, when you're looking at opening fixtures, like the few first fixtures they have, it's definitely a tough run because they're facing the Hurricanes, at home, and then the Chiefs away. That's a pretty tough run right there. But then after that, they have some pretty good, kind of fixtures going for them. So I think they can kind of get on a run in the middle of the year, and that can kind of propel them into that kind of playoff spot. So that's the reason why I've kind of put them in that 5th spot. I think they're not going to be like 1 or 2 or 3. I don't expect them to be there, but I think they'll just be outside that. So I think 5th place is kind of a reasonable kind of place for them. In terms of the 4th spot, this is where I've gone with the Brumbies. I think Brumbies are just an excellent side on paper. They always make the playoffs. Like, they're always a team that kind of just is consistent. They're the most consistent side, really, out of the Australian sides, and we kind of all know that. And they have that because they have that defensive structure, which I was on about, but they just also have the flair of players there, like Tom Wright, they've got Lenny Gattal, they've got Nolo Seo. In the forwards, they've got Rob Valentini there. They've got Luke Reimer, who I've always been impressed by. They even got Charlie Cale, who was a breakout kind of player for them last year. Yeah, they got a good team. The Brumbies are a side which it just comes down towards, like, it's really the playoffs for them. Like, it's kind of crazy to say. Like, I think they'll have a good regular season, but it comes down towards the playoffs because they always just miss out on that final. It's like they can make the semis, but can they make the final? We'll have to wait and see. But look, I think they'll make the playoffs no matter what. But in terms of the 3rd place team here, this is where I've gone with the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes are just a side where hurting still, going off what happened last year in terms of missing out on that final. Because again, they finished in 1st place in terms of the regular season. The Chiefs just have their number really when it comes into that kind of semifinal for them. So yeah, I think the Hurricanes, man, they've lost some players as well. This is the reason why I just think the Hurricanes. I think they're another side which is tough to predict because they've lost so many key players in terms of the winger spots. Like, they've lost, Riasi, they lost Josh Mobley. They don't have Jordy Barrett for the season because he's off playing for Leinster. They don't have Otis Viad now because, again, he was on sabbatical, but he's now decided, of course, to join Montecifica, so they don't have him officially now. But again, I do expect them to be pretty good because, again, I mean, the big addition is really having Cam Morgan back because they definitely missed a player like him in their side last year. I kind of expect them to do better in a way. Guys, I know I'm being really 50-50 on this one. I just think it's one of those where I think they are the hardest side to predict, the Hurricanes. I think the Crusaders, yes, I did say that they're going to be a hard side, but honestly, I think the Hurricanes are the hardest side to predict. I don't know if they'll drop down by a lot because of the players they've kind of lost, or do I think they'll be in roughly the same kind of area because they've brought back the likes of Cam Morgan, like I mentioned. They got Billy Proctor in there. Ruben Love, I guess, is out for half the year. So they have some ins and outs in there. So it's really 50-50 for me. So that's the reason why I think 3rd place is it's a reasonable placing for them, and I think it's not going to hurt them too much, I guess, going into the playoffs. But I do expect them to kind of do pretty well this year. So I'm going to say Hurricanes in 3rd. In terms of 2nd, I think you just got to go with Chiefs. I think, again, yes, the loss of Wallace TT is a hard one because he is out for the whole year due to his ACL injury he picked up. Look, besides that, they have a pretty good side in there. They brought in Jerome Brown from the Brumbies. You got McKenzie in there, who will always be good in terms of combination with Cortis Latsama. You got Nana Satura in there. You got Narwa. Again, they have lost Sean Stevenson, but he's only going to be unavailable up until round 4. So I think he's pretty good in that front. Yeah, look, the Chiefs are just a solid side, guys. They're just a solid side. They're very consistent in getting wins. It's just they may have a blip or two, but besides that, they're very consistent in how they kind of get the job done. Yeah, their execution is just so good. So I think that's the reason why I put them in second here. Yeah, so in first place here, I've gone with the Auckland Blues. I think, look, they are the side to beat. I think most people know that. You know, coming off a Super Rugby title is, they're always going to be the kind of the team to kind of look out for, and teams will be wanting to beat them. Blues are going to be aware of that. So look, in the back of their mind, they'll know that. But look, they might have put in Barrett back, which is a good signing for them. But they have lost some key players in there. But they haven't lost too many that it's like they can be hindered. I mean, the major one was really Akira Ione going off towards Japan, but the Blues have always been stacked in terms of loose forwards because they got Anton Segner, they got Adrian Drua there who kind of cover that 6 spots. I think they'll be good. Honestly, I think they'll be good. The only thing that kind of hurt them is really just more of an injury. Like if they lost like Satutu, or if they lost like, I'm trying to think what would be more of a damaging one. If they lost, Tuipulotu, that would be a big one because again, we've really lost Sam Derry, which is probably a big, that kind of hurts a bit, losing Sam Derry. We've also lost Bryce Heem. So those are probably the two ones that the Blues are kind of hurting the most on. But besides that, they have a solid back line. It's the Blues. I mean, they scored the most the most points last year in terms of points for, and they conceded the least amount of points last year. So if they can replicate the same thing, then I do expect them to kind of finish first place. And then, with, I guess, the playoffs and how the kind of system works, the Blues will be facing the Reds, in my estimation, Chiefs versus Crusaders, Hurricanes versus Brumbies. And I do expect the Blues to beat the Reds. I'd say the Chiefs, Crusaders, it's an interesting one because Crusaders could be actually a good side going into that. I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, in a way, I wouldn't be surprised if the Crusaders won that in a weird way. But do I think they could do it? I don't know. They got Will Jordan back. That's the thing. Will Jordan, man. When he's in your side, you can add something different to them. Yeah, no, I still think the Chiefs will win though. I think because they'll be at home. I think the home form will help them kind of power through. So we'll say Chiefs to win that one, and then Hurricanes Brumbies. Yeah, because I think the Brumbies will be away. So I'm going to say Hurricanes will win that one. So I have gone with Blues, Chiefs, Hurricanes, but in this fashion, of course, of Super Rugby now in terms of how the format works in terms of playoffs. The fourth team is now choosing off who has kind of like who was the highest loser in a way. That's kind of the weirdest way of saying it, but who had kind of the least points difference, I guess, in terms of the game, kind of progresses through actually, even though they've lost that quarterfinal, they actually progress towards semifinal in that way. So looking at the fixtures, I mean, I do expect the Brumbies to be pretty tough. Crusaders could be a tough team as well. I mean, I don't see the Reds kind of making it, so I think they're just a team I can't think about. But Crusaders or Brumbies, that's an interesting one. I think the Brumbies will just do it because I think the Hurricanes, they could go on a tear, though. That's the thing. The Hurricanes could just go on a tear and just destroy them. And I think the Crusaders-Chiefs game could be pretty close. So, you know what? I'm actually going to say Crusaders will make it through. So it will be Blues, Chiefs, Hurricanes, Crusaders. So all New Zealand teams. And that means that will be Blues versus the Crusaders, if I'm correct in that, and then Chiefs versus Hurricanes. I think that's how it works, right? And then it's tough, guys, but I'm gonna say Blues beat the Crusaders, which I'm hoping they would do. Chiefs Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes will get the revenge on the Chiefs, so I'm gonna say Hurricanes, and then Blues Hurricanes final. I'm going to back my boys. I'm going to say Blues to win. I think it's going to be very close, guys. Like, I would say if the Hurricanes, if they had, like, home form, for example, they got first place and then kind of going to the playoffs, they get the final and they get first, then I would say Hurricanes to win. But, if the Blues are in first going into the regular season and they get the home final, then I would expect the Blues to win that. So that is my prediction there, guys. But, let me know what you guys think. I know I took... I'm kind of talking about this forever, but I am just excited for the Super Rugby season, guys. As you all know, with the Lions tour up and coming as well, I'm going to be very interested to see kind of how the Australian sides do as well. Like I said, my prediction is that I do think they'll get a lot more wins this year against the NZ sides. And look, I'm hoping that Moana Pacifica and Fijian Drua can do well as well. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, that is it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys next time.